All right guys, thanks for joining us for a Cerakote equipment review. We're going to walk the camera around the shop, show you some of the ways that we've got things set up, and more importantly, the equipment that I decided to buy when I wanted to get into the Cerakote industry. We're a retail gun shop, so I'm going to kind of show you what we decided to get, and I'm probably going to give you some opinions on whether I think that that's a piece of equipment you would need to purchase right away, or maybe you could wait until you got a little bit bigger in the business. If you've got any comments or especially questions, make sure to go below in the comments, ask away for anything that doesn't get answered, and we'll try to jump on and answer any questions that you might have. We've been doing this for about 2.5, 3 years. Learn from our mistakes. There's no reason to make your own. While you're at it, make sure to go down below and subscribe to the Crossed Rifles YouTube channel. Hit that bell so that you get some alerts, and hit the like button on this video because the YouTube algorithm says that you should do that for me. All right, so here we are in the paint booth. We've got a Global Finishing Systems paint booth. We purchased this through one of their distributors. This particular booth, I'm going to give you the model number in case you wanted to replicate exactly what we have. It is a Delta Foxtrot Oscar Charlie Golf 060706. They call this a walk-in style spray booth. It is absolutely, as you can see, a walk-in style booth. The dimensions on this are 6 foot wide, 7 foot high, and 6 foot deep. That's where you get that 060706 model number from. In the back, we've got filters that will punch in. It's got little wire holders that we push these filters into, and behind that filter section you'd be able to see that there's a large air cavity where most of the ventilation happens. This is what the filters look like when we purchase them. These are the inexpensive filters. I can kind of point out where we get these from as well. I believe these are Global Finishing Solution filters. If we have the booth, one thing you'll find with me here at Crossed Rifles is I'll pay a little bit more money to match things up or to have the professional appearance. Sometimes it is form over function. We are looking for function first, but we are not opposed to something that functions well and looks good while you're doing it. You'll get to see where here at Crossed Rifles, if you're on the sales floor, if you're out in the retail shop, we've got open windows where you can watch in and see Dave or I or any of the other sprayers doing some spraying here in the booth. So we want it to look good and professional. We also knew, even though we did not have this set up when I purchased this equipment, we knew that I would have a situation where I would be bringing somebody back to see the setup. You want to look professional. If you want to get the big jobs, you've got to have a professional look. And the last thing I want to do is bring somebody back to this homemade spray booth. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. I visited a lot of places when I was preparing to get into Cerakote, and I've seen homemade booths with box fans as ventilation into the same room. They're just ventilating away from the booth into the same room that they're spraying in, all the way to homemade little spray tables where you spray down to. So I knew that at the time that we would be looking for those bigger jobs later on in the future, and I wanted the professional look. So when you bring somebody back and this is the spray booth, if you're looking at a 100-piece order for small parts, or maybe they want to get a sample done and they're telling you that they've got a 500-piece order in the future, and if you can meet the price margins that they need, this is what somebody's looking to see. On top of this, we've got the lighting. Lighting is very important when you're spraying. We didn't find that the lighting was adequate with this booth, so we had added these additional LEDs. You can see these are just LED shop lights that we went and bought at your local big box store, and they all link together. We've linked those into the electrical here on the booth. So on the side of the booth, when we click the whole power system on, which controls the fan and the lighting and on our controls inside of here, everything comes on at once. But this is the Global Finishing Solutions booth. At this point, I don't think I would change this one bit. This is a decision I'm very happy I made from the get-go. So far, I've had absolutely no complaints. We've had to install some of these cross sections up top. We've had to do some things so we can hang chains, and we've never had a single issue with the booth. So this is something I would highly recommend. We purchased this at the very beginning of our Cerakote journey. At the time, we had paid the deposits to become Cerakote certified. The class was, I mean, at that time we were, I think, 12 to 14 months out for a class. But as soon as you pay your deposit to get Cerakote certified, that does open up some discounts and benefits. So we got a hold of AFS. AFS is one of the large distributors for Cerakote products. And what I mean by products is the booth, the air compressor that we're going to show. They sell some ovens. And this booth in April of 2020, a lot has changed in the world since then. In April of 2020, I paid about $4,200 for this booth plus freight. So well within the confines of what I was looking to spend at the time, and meets all of our needs for sure. So meet me here in a couple seconds at the next piece of equipment. All right, so we were just in the booth. I wanted to show you the control panel. I mentioned it while we were in the booth, and this is hardwired into the building, and this is what controls everything on inside of our booth, including the lights. We had an outlet installed inside of the booth so we can plug some things in. We've got our timer. We're gonna get into some of that smaller equipment. This is probably gonna be, as mentioned before, a two-part video. So we'll get into some of that again, but this right here, we've got a main power control. We actually just leave that on all the time. Our fire system is always faulted because we do not have this linked in to an internal fire system here, which can all be done through the system. We control the fan and the lights from out here. When I click the lights on, you might have even seen in the corner of the video, it got a little brighter. And that's going to control all of those LED lights, including the fluorescent bulbs that are part of this system itself. We do intend on replacing those fluorescent bulbs with some LEDs so we get a very similar light. We like that 5000 K brightness and white light for when we're spraying, and we like it from all sides because the shadowing can be very difficult to get a proper spray. And then of course you can control your fan from here, nice and easy. It ventilates out the side of our building. This booth does allow you to ventilate up as well. So there's some interchangeable panels. And that's pretty important for the space that you're in. Understanding when I said this is 6 foot wide, 6 foot deep, and 7 feet tall, it is slightly taller than that with some of the braces, and it is definitely longer than that. I think this takes every bit of, yeah, almost 12 feet from where we enter the booth until where it ventilates out of the building. So we've got quite a bit of space there, and you have to be cognizant of that if you're going to be ordering this, and make sure that you get your actual footprint that this would be taking up if you're going to be installing a large piece of equipment like that. So that's the system right there. That's the control panel, nice and easy. One of the reasons we went with this one. All right, we've got an oven here. I cannot give you the brand name. In fact, I just spent about 15 minutes trying to find it. This was bought locally. We are about an hour from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I found this on Facebook Marketplace of all places. I was looking for a large oven. What I did is when I searched these terms, I was looking for powder coating ovens because the two are going to accomplish a very similar thing, and it's going to get the temperature ranges that you need. We don't ever really go over 200 degrees, 220 degrees at the most for our projects. In fact, we stay at about 180 for almost all of them. And this meets those requirements. A couple things I will tell you. I looked at the Cerakote recommended ovens. I have had a chance to do some jobs in locations that have those ovens. When you go and get Cerakote certified, you're going to be working with equipment that they recommend. They're phenomenal. In fact, I absolutely love them. What I loved about this was the price. I actually had to call my accountant just now and confirm. I paid $2,700 for this oven that was delivered to my location. It was made by a local manufacturer here. There were some specifications that I made sure it did have. One of the things I'll talk about real quick before I open the oven up and show you what you're looking for is we have found, especially when you're working a late day or doing an 8-hour spray, it's very convenient to be able to turn this oven on and off remotely. Whether you want to heat it up before you get to the shop, or maybe you want to finish spraying, leave the oven on, go grab dinner, or even head home. So one thing that Dave had done is he found a Wi-Fi enabled controller. Essentially, it's an electrical switch, and it's this switch back here. And if I push that button, it's actually going to turn the electric on for my oven. You'll notice that the controller turned on. Now you're going to hear this oven start clicking, and that's the controller that's running the heating element on the inside. It's got a standard oven heating element. And we can set our temperatures here. Again, just like the booth, I was looking for something that I can control very easily and does not take a lot of brain power, right? That's something that sometimes we're lacking around here. So it's got two switches, one to turn the whole unit on here at the control unit, because at first we did have this hardwired in without that Wi-Fi switch. And then the other unit is to control air movement on the inside. And that's very important. I want to open the oven up for you here. We do have a very large space. It's about a 4 foot by 4 foot space inside of here. I think it's 4 foot by 3 foot. We've got a lot of places to hang. The Cerakote recommended ovens are smaller than this. I would need two here at our shop. We definitely could have started with one. One of those units is smaller than this and costs, as far as I can remember, considerably more than this unit cost me. So you can get by with some of your locally made equipment. It's very well insulated. This room does not heat up a whole lot when we're running this thing, or we don't notice a lot if it's on. Draws a lot of power, but you're going to run into that with any oven. We did again have to hang some of these cross members up top so that we can hang things inside of the oven. And I will tell you, with the size of this oven being as large as it is on the inside, we've had this thing filled up. So that's one of the reasons that I'm really glad I got a little bit larger oven, and why I know for a fact we would need two. I only get one temperature with this, and all of the situations I've been in where we've been running 2 or even 3 ovens, that's the benefit of being able to run 180 and a 220 or a higher temperature. So you've got your difference in materials between polymer and steel, and you're able to run 2 different ovens and bake 2 things off at 2 different temperatures. Another thing that you're going to notice is we do have a diffuser in the bottom of this oven. Very important. It's got a standard heating element there at the bottom. In fact, it warms up pretty quickly. I can feel that heat already. And that diffuser is going to make sure that you don't scorch the bottom of your piece. We do have a fan in the back. Again, it's just blowing air around. That way that we have an even temperature all the way around the oven. Those are the 2 things that I would only really require as, or would categorize as required. This particular oven is not a one-hand open oven. That's one thing we don't like. The door swings very smoothly, especially here at the new shop where we've actually got level floors. The concern would be that it does take 2 hands to open this. Up here to my right, and I don't know if you can see this on view or not, but we've got some hanging racks, so you can see some of the ways that we've tried to alleviate that. But a lot of times you're able to come over here and you have to finagle things while you hold a piece and get the whole thing open and kick doors to close it, and it's just not as convenient as some of those more expensive ovens. But by far, I would not change this decision either. Really like this oven, and in the future when it dies, yeah, we'll probably switch to some of the stuff that Cerakote themselves they recommend. But at this point, this thing's doing everything we need it to do, and we'll keep going until it dies on us. All right, first big piece of equipment that I will tell you you absolutely do not need. You'll find the more videos you watch here on the cross rifles, the more times you hear from Dave or I, is that, man, we go down the rabbit hole on a lot of things. It's go big or go home. That's the attitude that we have. If you're going to do it right. I mean, we were raised by guys that said those things, and we took it to heart apparently. Also, I am the guy that will spend $10,000 to save $500, and that's a horrible business decision, right? So don't spend $1 to save a dime. But there are other business decisions that we came up with to justify this piece of equipment. I did buy this used. It was brand new in the case, so there's some things that we did to get it right. This is a Roland Versa Studio. It's called the BN20. That's the Bravo November 20. It's a 20-inch wide format printer. Okay, so this doesn't just cut vinyl. And when I say wide format, I have a 54-inch wide format printer not in shot right now, that we don't really cut vinyl on, so that has nothing to do with this. But this is about the smallest of the big printers that you can buy. So this will print, we print stickers, we print all kinds of fun stuff. The biggest thing that you need to know about is, and maybe we'll take just a quick pan through the retail shop, for marketing purposes, we print large posters of really nice, cool jobs that we've done, and they're hanging in my retail shop. So you come in to have a really cool shopping experience, to find the firearm that you're looking for, the accessories, and while you're in there, you're looking at constant marketing from me on the things that we can make and do to your gun. So we do utilize this for that purpose as well. This is about a $5,000 piece of equipment, $5,500 piece of equipment. I bought this for $4,200. Again, it was used. The guy had purchased it. It had sat for a year. He was a printing shop. That's specifically what he did. He had several wide format printers. He wanted to add this, never got into it. So I bought this for about $4,200. And it has paid for itself time and time again. Stencils online are fairly inexpensive, so much so that I've thought to myself a dozen times, we should print stencils and package them and sell them because we have so much free time here. Dave is behind the camera about ready to stab me, okay, because we have him creating stencils. This is his workstation behind me. This is my grandfather, God bless his soul, was 96 years old when he passed away. This was his TV for the last 10 years of his life. So we've got this old TV. We got a dozen TVs laying around the shop, but I don't like Dave enough to give him any of those. So I gave him this old Sony TV. He's got a laptop section to it. We use Adobe Illustrator and several other things to create our own stencils. And Dave's not looking to probably pick up any more work because he also sprays Cerakote, edits all of these videos, does all the audio, and he's standing behind me doing video right now. So yeah, it's something that you don't need. They sell Graph Tech. This is how I went down this path. They sell Graph Tech vinyl cutters, which will do everything that you need to do. In fact, several times I've thought to myself, we should sell this and buy a Graph Tech, pocket the rest of the cash, and the only reason we don't is, again, those marketing posters that we've printed several times and stickers and some of the other things that we will do on here. So good piece of equipment, don't need it by any means. A vinyl cutter overall, the Graph Tech gets great reviews. A vinyl cutter overall, I think, is something that you should add once this is a profitable endeavor. All right, this is not something you should go out and spend $1,200 on or $1,500 on or $1,000. I will say, do not buy a cheap vinyl cutter. I have read review after review after review. I've got a lot of friends that own gun shops. I've got a lot of friends that do Cerakote. We're Cerakote certified here. I can't repeat that enough. And I've heard from all of them that have tried to buy the cheapies that it just simply doesn't work, and they all end up with a nicer Graph Tech vinyl cutter. Also, if you do get into vinyl cutting, make sure you get the right stuff. This is Avery high temperature vinyl. It's made to go in the oven. It doesn't last about past one section in the oven. You can get something tacked out, spray it, and then that's about all that starts to peel, but that's what you're looking for. You only need to get that spray down for that like second go around. So yeah, that's something that I would recommend doing once your endeavor into the Cerakote world is profitable. In the meantime, go online, Google it, and buy stencils. Okay, I want to talk to you about air compressors. You absolutely do not need an Ingersoll Rand. In fact, again, this goes with the go big or go home. We wanted industrial sized. I'm in an 18,000 square foot building here. We were not when I purchased this equipment, but at this point, we knew we wanted to be this big. So I bought a piece of machinery that was way oversized for anything we would ever need, and I now supply air to my entire building here. In fact, when we purchased this building, right here in the same location was an even much larger air compressor that was incredibly overpowered, and I was able to sell that to help recoup the idea that I had bought an oversized air compressor for myself already. We did get this on the recommendation of Cerakote. This is right along the same distributor as the paint booth. So Global Finishing Supply paint booth, we bought through a distributor. We bought the air compressor and the air dryer from them as well on their recommendation. And there is a discount associated with purchasing as a Cerakote customer. So those prices that I gave you on the booth and the prices I'm about to give you on this was from April of 2020, and they were also associated with a discount. This air compressor cost about $3,700. If I remember correctly, there was an additional freight charge of about $400. So that's something to be aware of. It's incredibly heavy. The air dryer, which is a refrigerator unit, if you're not familiar with that, go look up a video on how air dryer works. We feel like it's very important. Our air dryer was in another $1,500. So you're looking at about $5,200 right here in these two pieces of equipment. Money very well spent. I do not think that it's necessary to get this particular one. This is probably the highest priced one. DeWalt makes a large compressor all the way to Harbor Freight. I've got a Harbor Freight compressor that stands about this tall at my house, just a nice little house compressor. And I will tell you, I've had it for 6 years. I don't maintain it. I have beat the hell out of it, and it still works. So I would think that their larger units, while being well maintained, would probably work very well as well. Something to look into. And then you've got to remember, you see this blue line of PEX coming off the wall behind me. That leads to everywhere in my 18,000 square foot building. And I'm going to tell you, to run air in an 18,000 square foot building is not inexpensive. So something you should remember is, how are you going to get the air from here to other places? I actually, again, if I had to go do it, I would probably, in this space, we set it up very specifically so that we don't have to deal with noise. It was a lot less expensive in our last building because we were just all crammed in one room, and I kind of miss that. My pocketbook misses that, and I absolutely don't miss it as a Cerakoter, because now all of this equipment is running out here while we're up in our retail space, or we're up in our comfort zone spraying projects, and we don't have to listen to that. This is very loud. If you're going to be working near it, you also need hearing protection, something to think of. And then just while we're here, I'll show you, we've got another airdrop over here to the side. I don't think you can see it, but there's a little exit door over here. And this is where, like, if I need to fill up air in the springtime in my truck, we've got a little airdrop, but we also use it right over here, right behind you, essentially to the left, kind of where this light is coming from over here, is the workstation where we've got our Sandblaster cabinet and all of the other prep station. So that's the close proximity that we're working to here. It can get a little loud, but again, very well worth it. I don't know that if I would spend the big money. This is probably one where if I needed to cut some budget, I would probably go to a smaller or less expensive air compressor, just to let you know. I will say, with all of the airdrops in the gunsmith area and back here, we can be running our Sandblaster, spraying in the booth. Somebody can be working in the gunsmith area, running air tools, and I can be filling my truck up, and this compressor meets all of those needs. So that is also very nice, and it's nice to have now that we've spent the money. Real quick, I wanted to add this part right after I got done talking. I thought about it. One thing you should remember is that this is a hardwire unit from the factory. It comes with a pigtail on it, and it's not your standard 110, okay? So you're gonna probably need to get an electrician if that's not your thing. Now, that being said, we have this unit plugged into the wall. So we had a licensed electrician come in, take some, as you can see in the building that I'm in, we've got a massive amount of electrical ability. This was a large industrial building before. We did have an outlet dropped in so that we can plug this unit in. Since we're already talking, I'm going to bring you right over here to the rest of the equipment. This is where we do a lot of our Cerakote prep. And we've changed things up quite a bit, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but this is more about equipment. We'll talk about how we do things in another video in this series. Small equipment wise, we do have, or I guess large equipment wise, I would categorize both of these things, our Cerakote dip tank. So this comes from Cerakote. It's an acetone tank. It's got a nice seal around the inside of the lip of the lid, which seals off that acetone from evaporating too much. You can see the way I set that down, and it does not seal up very well. There's been plenty of times where I've come into the shop and I found that that's not seated that well. That's a conversation we had to have with the employees once acetone jumped up to $93 per 5 gallons. But that right there is something that we do use quite a bit. We installed a nice little drain on the side, and we drain it back into old acetone tanks so that we can dispose of it properly when there's anything left in there. It is also really easy to wash this thing out with a hose. You'll see that we did have a water station installed behind me. You're going to need water. We didn't think that we would. You're going to need water. So we actually have a shrinky hose, I don't know what they're called, hooked right up to a water supply here. I've got a sink, so we took this workbench from a big box store, cut a hole in it, installed our own sink with drain, and then that also makes it very easy to clean this out. And this is just sitting on an old desk. So not anything fancy by any means, but some things that it's nice to have it down at working level to take that lid off. We will use this for anything that does not fit in our ultrasonic. Now the ultrasonic was on when I just walked back here to start this video. It's warm right now. It warms up to 50 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is, Fahrenheit. And It's got a main power switch on the side, on the back. I find that on all the time, and I come in here on Sundays when we're not open, and I find that my ultrasonic tank is very warm, just eating up the energy around here. So something to pay attention to. But this, it was a life-changing piece of equipment when we purchased it. A large, nice quality ultrasonic tank like this is not inexpensive. I think we paid somewhere in the $350 range when we purchased it. So something that you do not need to begin with. You can scrub. We use a simple green mixture in this, Dave. Yeah, we use a simple green mixture in this. You can put other things in there as well. We use acetone only in here. We've tried both. We really like the simple green mixture a little bit more. With simple green, again, you will 100%, no doubt, need access to water to rinse your projects off. You'll see behind me as I've been walking around, not only do we have another airdrop, but we have our Scat Blast Sandblaster. Again, a piece of equipment recommended by Cerakote, purchased because they recommended it. I looked into some of the other cheaper units. This is an $1,800 unit. This is the little caveat. Most of the people here at the shop, me included, were in the military. And so when I was doing the purchasing for this, TP Tools, that's Tango Papa Tools.com, they offer a military veterans discount, which is very nice of them. And they've been a blast to deal with. Did you catch that pun, Dave? So they've been a blast to deal with. As far as buying extra gloves and glass protectors, spare pieces of glass, this is very much a high maintenance machine. Okay, you're going to need extra tips, guns, tubes, extra gloves. These gloves stink to high heaven because you sweat in them. You're going to need some extra stuff, but they are phenomenal to work with at TP Tools, and I think you can buy these through several other distributors. But if I remember correctly, TP Tools is actually the manufacturer of this unit as well. So they sell tools, and then this is kind of their line of product. This particular one was purchased because of its dimensions. This is the 960 DLX. The 960 DLX, that's Delta Lima X-ray, and because of the size of the door and the cabinet space on the inside, my qualification when I got into Cerakoting is I wanted to be able to Cerakote a large 20-inch rim or a motorcycle frame. Now, while I might be able to fit either of those items in here, that isn't necessarily the piece of equipment that was going to stop me from being able to do that. It's your spray booth and your oven are the two you need to pay attention for that, because you can sandblast outside, right? I can just open my back door here in the alleyway and sandblast if I absolutely had to. But again, a large enough cabinet that I can fit all of the things that I need into it. It does have a vacuum attached to it as well. That's another high maintenance item. Again, things that we did not know when we got into this that you should know. You're going to spend just as much time maintaining your equipment than you will spraying. Now, if you're lucky like me, you own a large shop that has 11 employees. I haven't touched any of these things for maintenance in a year and a half. But understand that if you're a one-man show, or if you're just starting out into Cerakote, or you're not profitable yet, that's a place that's going to eat up some of your money. And it is well worth it. This is also working back here so close to that compressor. I will say this is a hearing protection area. You'll see as far as little pieces of equipment, you'll see on top of the cabinet there, we even have some muffs. A lot of times our guys will just have like a Bose set of headphones or Beats or something like that. And that's enough to not worry about some of this noise, because it's not loud, it's just the repetitive loud noises. So that's a couple of the pieces of equipment over here. Again, all of the airdrops in the world. We've got more airdrops over here. We do have a regulator on our cabinet. We did not at first. We were having to regulate a large section of air to get the cabinet to where we want it to be. I'm going to tell you, just put a regulator on your cabinet. Okay, just put an air regulator on your cabinet. We get these air regulators off of Amazon or down at the hardware store. They're like 30 or 40 bucks. Well worth throwing them in everywhere that you can and anywhere that you're going to need to change the amount of air that you're receiving. So that compressor is just sending 150 psi air through the entire building, and we're regulating it most of the drops now, whereas in before we regulated a lot from the compressor on. So that's probably one of the major large pieces of equipment that I first purchased is the compressor, the dryer, the blasting unit, the spray booth, and the oven. None of that is necessary. I've seen guys that do this in their garage out of little easy bake oven looking things on top of a cabinet like this. But Our life here, the $30,000 in equipment that you've probably just had a chance to look at, has made it considerably easier to get jobs, considerably easier to bring a customer in when they have doubts or questions or how does this happen. We bring them back in this shop, and when somebody sees that you've got a $4,000 compressor and a $2,000 blasting cabinet and a $5,000 booth and so forth, they really start to not question how dedicated you are to your craft. I'm not saying you've got to go out and spend the amount of money that I did. I'm saying that when we decided to do this, I knew we would be able to time that correctly. I knew it. That goes off once every 45 minutes. So that's a great piece of equipment that you actually, if I remember correctly, you get for free because of the Cerakote. That might be the Cerakote discount. So that's an automatic valve for the bottom of the air compressor. We actually have it silenced because we are an 0702 manufacturer. We're able to put silencers on things. No, it's just got a tube of, we do sell silencers here. It's got a tube it's just got a piece of tubing on it. And without that, that goes off, and everybody in this building that suffers from PTSD almost murders everybody else, okay? Because it's very loud without that piece of tubing on there. And it goes off every 45 minutes, and it just got us. But anyways,
You've also been asking me to run it outside for the last 2 months.
I have been asking Dave to take that tube and run it right out, the piece of wood that's right behind that compressor, so that we don't have to hear that every 45 minutes because it scares the shit out of me, and yet there it sits. One other large piece of equipment we need to talk about: how did I get all of this here and how did I unload it? This is all going to show up to your place, and you're going to need to get it off the truck and to its rightful home. We have a fork truck here. The fork truck has changed our lives. Dave will stand behind the camera and shake his head yes. The fork truck has changed our lives. Absolutely not necessary to have a fork truck in the Cerakote world, but you should understand that when this equipment is showing up, you're going to need a way to move it around. I think that air compressor weighs somewhere around 900 pounds, okay? So from moving it just from the truck to where it's at, and then we moved shops and we moved that piece of equipment over here. So there is some consideration and understanding what you're getting into. I didn't think about that when I bought that air compressor, and then it showed up, and me and 3 other guys took 4x4s and put it under the supports and picked it up like it was Cleopatra and walked it into the building. So something to think about as far as if you don't have the capability to get 3 other guys that are young-ish to carry one of those things, be ready for when your equipment shows up.